in this news today.
Well, so when that happened, I mean, it's hard to know what the point of things is. It kind of could.
Want to play roulette? Here's a tip. European roulette has a lower house edge than American style. The lower the house edge, the better shot you have at winning. Most online casinos offer European roulette. So, if I were you, I'd get spinning. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
This is the moment every fan waits for. The countdown's over. The road to kickoff has begun.
Play is here to stay. I'm not going to name names, Kevin.
From win totals to player props, from division races to MVP debates, we've got eyes on every camp and data feeding 24/7, breaking down every angle across the league. Every pick, every edge, every line that matters. SportsGrid. Your road to kickoff starts now.
You know, out of 30 teams, Gabe, only 10 have a winning record against left-handed pitchers. 10-19, and there's one team that's 12-12.
See, I
think it's the
yeah. See, I didn't know the exact number, Scott, but I would have, I knew where you were going with this. In which there's just not as many left-handed hitters. They're not as good against them.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
You have to imagine it'll be Rory and Tommy. So that is just such a strong foursomes pairing. And then I look over here at the Americans. I'm like, golly, if Patrick Cantlay, they just need him to make the team because you got Scotty and Russell. If Xander's going out, you have to him and Pat have been so good in the foursomes. Bryson's going to have to play. Who's he going to play with?
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
What's going on, and welcome to GameTime Decisions. My name is Tom Vecchio. As Kevin Walsh said yesterday and over the past 2 days, he is out for the coming week, so I will be filling in today, Thursday, Friday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of next week. While I'm under center right now, things are going to be largely business as usual. We have a lot to get to. We have a bit of a smaller baseball slate today, but of course we have some golf action. Brady Cannon will be here to talk about that. We can get an update on the BMW tournament and the FedEx standings there. We have preseason tomorrow, so of course we'll be going through all of that. Then we have some soccer leagues starting around the world tomorrow and over the weekend. But we are back to baseball to start things off. We did see the Blue Jays come back and win earlier today, 2-1. The Orioles, after a bit of a rain delay, come through with the win over the Mariners, 5-3. But we have some games coming up right now, and really the game of the day, or arguably the most important game of the day, is let's get to this Mets-Braves game that's starting at 7:10. There could be a touch of rain. It shouldn't be too much of an issue. Senga is on the mound for the Mets. Elder is on the mound for the Braves. The lines have moved a bit since earlier today. The Mets are now only minus 190. A little bit earlier, they were minus 196. We still have the 8.5 total, I should say, moved up to 9, as there have been a tremendous amount of runs scored over the past 2 games. Obviously, the Mets are, I'm not going to say fighting for their playoff lives at this point. They're still minus 300 to make the playoffs, but things have not looked good for the Mets. So we have that game starting off at 7:10, but starting in just a few minutes, we have the Guardians hosting the Marlins. Tanner Bybee is on the mound, taking on Edward Cabrera of the Marlins. Guardians are minus 130 on the money line. Marlins are up at plus 110. The total was 7.5 a little bit earlier. It is live 7 now, minus 122 to the over. We've seen these teams bounce back and forth in terms of wins. Obviously, the Guardians have been super hot as of late and are chasing down the Yankees when it comes to the AL wildcard spot. So a very important game for the Guardians. And of course, the Marlins have been playing solid ball, especially the second half of the season. And of course, are always looking to play spoiler. Now, for this Phillies-Nationals game, the Phillies are rather large favorites, sitting at minus 194. It is important to note that there was a report earlier today from about 4.5 hours ago that the Phillies had plane trouble last night, and they actually stayed over in Cincinnati and did not arrive to Washington until earlier today. The Phillies, of course, are still, again, large favorites up at minus 196, 8.5 total. Jesus Luzardo going up against Brad Lord. So it is important to note, travel happens, plane delays happen, and it caused them to not be in the nation's capital late last night. They weren't there until early this afternoon. So if you are betting that game, be sure to take a look at that. But let's get to some of the crew bets that we have today. The crew's best bets. I'm going to start off with mine for Riley Green of the Detroit Tigers. We'll, of course, touch on that game coming up as well for 2+ total bases, thing at minus 110. Great matchup for him going up against Bailey Ober. Sam Yarnell, our producer, also in that game. Schoolball to go 3 up, 3 down in the first inning, sitting at minus 125. Kevin, who's from the ocean right now, Bailey Ober, another option from the same game. 2+ walks allowed up at plus 160. We know that Bailey Ober is not good. Chris Kofsky, one of the other producers here. Diamondbacks, Rockies, that game is at Coors Field. He's actually going with the under 12.5 at minus 105. That's a rather interesting one from Kofsky. We know he always likes to have plenty of interesting bets. And then Pat Foster, another producer, Phillies Nats with that game I was just talking about, over 8.5, sitting at minus 120. Again, travel could always impact things. And I'm sorry to say it's Sam, our producer, but the Nats bullpen is not good. Let's round out the rest of the MLB slate because there are only these 2 other games that we should be noting. The Detroit Tigers with Screwball, the presumptive AL Cy Young back-to-back winner on the mound, taking on the Twins. And, of course, the Tigers would like to pick up any win they can possibly get at this point because, yes, the Guardians have been super hot. The Tigers haven't been super solid as of late, but Cy Young potential winner is on the mound. They are very heavy favorites, sitting up at minus 205. The Twins sold off half their roster at the trade deadline, and they are massive underdogs despite the fact that they are home. There could be a touch of rain in this game. If anything, it's coming early, so a delay would be better than in-game. If you are backing Screwball in any capacity, you would like to see that rain come early and be short so it doesn't happen in the middle of the game and all of a sudden he's sitting down for 50 minutes or an hour, and then they simply just don't send him back out there. So pay attention now. We got about an hour before that game starts, and that is important if you are backing his strikeout prop and or first 5. The rain could have an impact on things. And then the final game on today's slate, 8:40 p.m. Eastern Star, as we said, the Rockies hosting the Diamondbacks. 12.5 total for this one. As I said, Chris Kofsky, one of the producers live from Mexico, is taking the under on this one. He certainly likes that. Obviously, 2 teams, not a whole lot to play for. Should be runs aplenty, whether it's tonight or certainly extending throughout the weekend. That's the baseball board for today. We certainly have a lot to get to when it comes to some NFL news we got today. We'll be going through some of the top running backs that I like this year, at least from a fantasy perspective. We are in fantasy football draft season as we are in the heart of August and leading throughout the final weeks of the preseason. We will certainly be looking at a few players and then some important notes, at least from Browns camp today, that we got from their rookie running back, Quinshon Judkins, is allowed to return to the team. The charges will not be filed against him, and he will be returning to the team in the coming days. This is obviously a bolster to their offense, which faces its own question marks when you have 5-6 QBs on your roster at one time. But this should only benefit them overall. We know that Sugar Sanders will not be playing this weekend in preseason as he is dealing with an oblique issue. Kenny Pickett, Dylan Gabriel have been dealing with their own injuries. So things have been all over the place for the Browns, but getting some type of reinforcements with their rookie running back. He is returning to the team in the coming days. We will have George Kurtz coming on in a few segments in this upcoming segment for a few segments to talk about some MLB. We have some games today, but also a big weekend series between the Dodgers and the Padres coming up. We saw the Padres take over the NL West lead yesterday after their big win against the Giants, and then the Dodgers losing yet another game to the Angels. They lost the entire series and the entire season series versus the Angels, despite a couple days ago some late inning heroics by Shohei Ohtani with a home run in the top of the 9th. The Dodgers still weren't able to hold on. And the playoff picture in the NL is all over the place. And, frankly, the team that succeeds, I think it truly comes down to which team has the easiest path, because the team that's going to get the bye, that doesn't have to play that extra series, that doesn't have to go through the Phillies and or the Brewers and then face the Dodgers, whatever it might be, the NL is going to be crazy when it comes to the playoffs. So if the Dodgers do not win the NL West and they have to play that extra series, that's going to be a tall task for them going through. Sure, they could beat the Mets. I think the Mets with the struggles, I would take the Dodgers in the Mets versus the Mets in a wild card series right now. I think most people would be looking that way. Dodgers over the Cubs, probably most people leaning with the Dodgers. But then the Dodgers have to go without home field advantage, taking on the Brewers and or the Phillies. And that's just to get to the NLCS. Now, of course, much of this can be said about any team. I think it's easy to chalk or to almost write in chalk at this point that the Phillies will win the NL East and the Brewers, at least for my money, will be winning the NL Central. After that, I don't know where things will lie. Of course, we'll be breaking down all of this in the coming days. We do have this big series between the Dodgers and the Padres this weekend. So next Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, when I'm here, we will have the result of that and can take a look at all of that. So George Kurtz is coming up next to talk about some baseball tonight, what he likes going into the weekend. And of course, I will be here for the entirety of today, tomorrow, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, breaking everything down. So stay tuned right here on SportsGrid. Game Time Decisions. We have baseball, we have golf, we have soccer, we have preseason NFL. Stay tuned. Game Time Decisions.
Enter into the magical world of McLuck.com, where even the smallest of spins can win real cash prizes. Adventure into over 1,000 of the best Vegas-style slot games. So what are you waiting for? Unlock your free welcome offer today. Join the fun where winners play and players win.
We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune in to Game Time Decisions weekdays on SportsGrid.
This is the moment every fan waits for. The countdown's over. The road to kickoff has begun.
Play is here to stay. I'm not going to name names, Kevin.
From win totals to player props, from division races to MVP debates, we've got eyes on every camp and data feeding 24/7, breaking down every angle across the league. Every pick, every edge, every line that matters. SportsGrid. Your road to kickoff starts now.
Did you know sportsbooks tend to draw up tighter bet lines for events that get even more bettors, like championship games or major matchups? My tip, try betting on less popular sports. You might have a better shot at beating those odds. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
What's going on, and welcome back to Game Time Decisions right here on SportsGrid. My name is Tom Vecchio. Again, I will be hosting Game Time Decisions today, tomorrow, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, while Kevin Walsh is out. We have a bit of a smaller MLB slate today, but let's welcome in George Kurtz, host you can find right here on SportsGrid. George, smaller slate today. I want to know, did you have any action in the earlier games, and do you have any action in the game that just had first pitch between the Guardians and the Marlins?
Yes, we lost on Seattle, so that didn't go our way here as Baltimore took care of business, so that was bad. Cleveland and Miami, nothing, as far as the game itself, nothing before a pregame here. I do have the under. All right, I don't expect a lot of runs to be scored here, but nothing as far as the game itself there. I do like Cleveland to win the game, just didn't like the price it wanted me to pay. So I'm hoping we get an early 1 run from Miami. I don't want to go 2, but 1 run from Miami, then we go in-game on Cleveland.
Okay. So, I know you are a fan of like the 2-team parlay, and today the easy answer, I think, looks like the Phillies and the Tigers both sitting at around -200. I'm not sure if you saw, but the Phillies, they had a bit of plane trouble last night where they actually didn't leave Cincinnati last night. They stayed there overnight, were delayed into getting into the nation's capital today until early this afternoon. They're still sitting at -205 or so. Does that impact you in any capacity as they're having first pitch right now? Does team with travel issues, do you still want to be going to them knowing that they're a little bit behind schedule?
I think if they were playing a better team, yeah, you could convince me of that. If they're playing a decent team, not even a good team, just a decent team. All right, maybe they're tired, maybe they didn't sleep well, whatever it might be. They're playing Washington. All right. I know it's in Washington. It's not in Philadelphia. We're not talking about a great team. Oh, they're playing better than what they were a month ago, right, when they were just disastrous. They are playing better here. They released Nate Lowe today, by the way, the Nationals did, as they activated Dylan Cruz. So I guess there is that. But you're right about the public parlay. That's Philadelphia and Detroit. I'm staying away from it after my disaster parlays last night as the Mets somehow blew a 6-0 lead. And then I guess it didn't matter because I was on the Dodgers as well, and they blew a 3-0 lead. And I don't know about you, Tom. When I lose the first half of my parlay, and it doesn't matter who wins the second half, I root against that team big time to lose because I want to lose both then. I want to be really wrong here. So I guess it was good. They both lost.
Of course, I would rather lose the second than lose the first. You want to at least go in knowing that you have a shot in that second leg. Chris Kofsky, one of our producers here, he said for the Diamondbacks-Rockies game, he actually likes the under 12.5, which is always a bit surprising. It is a very high number. Granted, it's at Coors Field, but any thoughts on this game? -174, I think, is a bit of a crazy line. Not saying I like the Rockies on the money line, but 12.5 total. Any thoughts on this one?
12.5 is a nut. We haven't really seen all that much in that high a line in Coors this year, mainly because their offense isn't very good. I can't go 12.5 either. Once again, it could be an in-game opportunity to see this here. If you're going to go with total here, I do kind of like the Diamondbacks team total. All right. Okay. I think that's a way to attack it here. If you want to go that direction, I do think the D-backs going to score a bunch of runs. I don't mind the run line, by the way. It's probably where I haven't placed it on this game yet. We still got 2 hours here before game time here. I do expect to go on the Diamondbacks run line. The only reason I haven't done it yet, maybe there's a parlay opportunity there for me if I decide I want to go Detroit and that run line. I don't think so. I think we're going to play them separate here, but I do like the Diamondbacks to win the game. I like the run line here. I don't hate the over. I just 12.5. I can't do it when I know one team not really good offensively. I think I might need at least 8, if not 9, from Diamondbacks to hit that number. Rodriguez is a decent pitcher. Maybe not as good as people think he is, but he's a decent pitcher here. I don't think he's going to get shellacked tonight.
No, and if you told me this game ended 8-3, 8-4, and you lose by the hook or by 1 run, that's not something I would want to have any action. Again, if it drops to 11.5, that's a different story in game. But speaking of the Mets, you said you were on last night. Big game for them tonight. We've seen a ton of runs over the first 2 games of this series. Senga's on the mound, -190. They are a favorite. To make the playoffs, they're still -300. But any action on this game? And what's your outlook for the Mets right now? Because when it rains, it pours, and it has not been going well in Queens.
No, it's not, and I think they thought they turned it around somewhat when Alonso set the club home run record on Tuesday night. Hey, things are going great. We scored 6 runs. We're bombarding Carrasco yesterday. Looked good here, and then it all went crumbling down as Peterson and Garrett gave up 9 runs in the 4th inning here. Just an ugly, ugly game here. I'm not laying the -190. I can't do it. Once again, I think this is another opportunity where we wouldn't mind the Braves scoring a run or 2 early here, which we did get in Miami, by the way. Problem is they have second, third, nobody out. They're going to score more than 1, so I'm not going to get quite the price I want there. So I think you're sort of rooting the same thing for the Braves. Score a run early, get that price down to a more manageable level, and then we can hit it. I think the way I'm going to look at this game, though, is I'm not in love with the total of 9 here, although it is even money, plus 100 here. I do like the idea of an in-game because we know the Braves bullpen is trash. I know they pitched well last night. I know they sold their soul, pumpkin, midnight, whatever it might be. I don't know if that's going to happen 2 nights in a row here. I think there'll be some runs scored later in the game. We know the Mets bullpen has all sorts of issues as well, really other than Diaz, and even he's struggled somewhat of late here. So this is an in-game over that I want to hit once we get some run. I guess once we get an inning or two with only 1 run or 0 runs and not 3 or 4. I think it's an in-game over we can hit.
And then finally today, we have who could be the back-to-back AL Cy Young winner, Tarek Skubal on the mound for the Tigers. They're minus 200, taking on the Twins and Bailey Ober. I specifically like Riley Green in this matchup. I would assume, like you said, that the Tigers-Phillies combo or Tigers-Mets combo is the public parlay, but would you be willing to lay the 1.5 with the Tigers at minus 120, or does this game feel like an under because the Twins just aren't going to be scoring runs?
I think once again, I think you take the Twins team total under. I think it's 2.5. So if you want to do that, I think Skubal is going to pitch very well, if not lights out. We just watched the Twins against the Yankees. I know they won last night, but this is like, who? I'm sorry, who's batting? You know, you're playing that sort of game. You don't know who these guys are. It's like the old movie Major League. You know, who the hell are these guys with the groundskeepers? I think they use slightly different language there. So I like the Tigers. It depends how you want to play them. I'm not playing them on the money line. You can put them in a parlay. We discussed that already. The run line is not great. I think it's minus 120 I just saw here. So that's not fantastic either. But maybe that's the way to go here. But I don't like the Twins to score any runs tonight. I'm probably going to leave the 7.5 alone. All right, because even if he gives up 1 or 2 runs here, that means we need Detroit to score 6, and they've been an offense that goes up, down. You really hard to trust their offense here. I'm going to leave that alone here, but I will have Detroit, like I said, probably in a parlay, maybe a smaller money run line play as well.
Okay. So George Kurtz here. He's sticking around for one more segment. We're going to take a look at some of the series coming up as there are huge series between the Mets and the Mariners and the Dodgers and the Padres. Stay tuned right here on SportsGrid. Game Time Decisions rolls on.
Vegas knows how to celebrate. If you're headed to Vegas for your birthday, plan ahead to get all the birthday freebies the city has to offer. Just by showing your ID, you could get free cash play, scratch cards, drinks, and food at various venues on the Strip. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
He said that was his decision, not a smart baseball play. Like, shut up, Dave. Like, you know what I mean? Like, really. If Ohtani wants to steal third base on his own, let him steal third base on his own, bro. Like, he's Shohei Ohtani. He made the call. He was wrong. He was out. Okay. I wouldn't have called him out for it.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Multiple times on 18 today. It was just so wild. I mean, the distances, JJ hit it to the exact same spot. He had 30 feet, 36 feet, and 30 feet, and made the second playoff hole, the 30-footer there. And then they go to recut the hole.
Which I like. I like that, by the way.
Well, I thought it was great, but I'm like, dude, he might hole out from the fairway. Like, they cut in the hole where he's hit every single approach shot.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
What would you tell the people right now, though? Like, okay, I like the Rams heading into the season, but I'm not sure about Matthew Stafford because people want to get their bets in. People want their team totals. People want to bet week number 1 here. So what's your prognosis on the Rams? We'll talk long-term in a second. Week number 1. Are we just going to say, like, yeah, he's ready. Bullets are flying. He looks great out there because he is a tough dude. But again, a back injury for a quarterback trying to get all that torque on passes, usually not good.
The Early Line, only on
We are back on SportsGrid Game Time Decisions. My name is Tom Vecchio. Quick look around the live MLB slate. The Marlins went up quickly in the first inning, so the Yurfie cash is there. 3-0 Marlins Guardians right now going to the bottom of the first. I'm not seeing any live lines for that. It is the bottom of the first for the Phillies and the Nats with 1 out. So if you're rooting in the Nerfie or the Yurfie, you have 2 more outs to get that through. George Kurtz is here. We are breaking down some baseball and lines for tomorrow's games. Most of them are up already. I'm not seeing any listed pitchers, at least here on the FanDuel Sportsbook. But as I said, George, Mariners, Mets tomorrow. Mariners played today earlier in Baltimore. Right now, they're plus 106 on the money line. Mets are minus 124. Both pitchers TBD. Does any of that interest you?
Yeah, I'm not so sure why they have all these things as TBD. We know we pretty much know who the pitcher is going to be. The Mets are going with the rookie tomorrow, right? McLean or McClan, whatever his name is there.
Yeah.
One of their top pitching prospects there. Seattle's going with Castillo. So theoretically, it should be a very good game here. Although it's funny, I'm looking on ESPN, they have Minaya listed for the Mets. I thought we saw that the rookie was going tomorrow.
I saw a note earlier. Rookie was supposed to be ready to go, which is why I'm interested in at least the Mariners at plus 106 coming off a couple losses. If we know it's going to be Castillo, I know he's had his ups and downs this year, but you give me the Mariners at plus money, I think I'm on board with that.
I would agree with you. And I don't know if I care one way or the other, if it's Minaya or the rookie here. I think either way, I'm taking the Mariners here. Sure. Mariners are, like I said, in my mind, the best team in the American League. I know they've struggled the past 2 nights, but nobody can match that pitching staff. All right, I maybe throw out baseball here. They will get back Bryce Miller, who threw, I think, 76 pitches today. What I believe will be his last rehab start. So he should be back, I don't know, maybe Tuesday or Wednesday of next week for the Mariners. And you got Miller, Wu, Gilbert, Kirby, Castillo. Good luck, along with one of the best bullpens in baseball, and they picked up Naylor and Suarez here. I'm going to like the Mariners as well tomorrow. That'll be, like I said, I don't care who's starting for the Mets. I'm going to be on Seattle.
Now, we got a note earlier today that Michael King for the Padres was placed on the IL. He was supposed to start tomorrow in LA to take on the Dodgers. It is knee inflammation. It's not the issue that he had with his arm earlier in the year. So it's knee inflammation. I'm not seeing that line listed anywhere. It should be Kershaw tomorrow for the Dodgers, but this is a massive series for the NL West. Will you look to play this series a specific way? Back the Padres, even though we don't know who's going to be pitching yet, roll with the Dodgers, even though they've been struggling, because I see this as pivotal. And frankly, if you like the team, you should be looking at them almost from a division standpoint rather than game by game.
Well, we know what the problem is for the Dodgers. It's the bullpen. All right, the bullpen is it's not good, and that's probably being very kind. All right, it's not very good at all here. Starting pitcher's been decent. We don't know about Max Muncy either, right? He got the sore side. So, okay, what does that mean? Are we talking oblique? Is he going to be out again for 6 weeks? So I really kind of want to wait on this. And by the way, who's starting for San Diego now? If it's not going to be King, are we getting a call up here? Are they going with a bullpen game? You know what I mean? What are they doing? So there's too much uncertainty for me to bet this game right now. If it was King versus Kershaw, I was probably prepared to go on smaller play on San Diego. But without that, I probably, if anything, I might lean towards the over in this game. It's only 8.5. So I think that's might be where I'm going to play here with Kershaw against TBD here. I think there will be some runs scored here.
So it will be Cease on Saturday for the Padres, at least that's what I'm seeing listed. And then they are calling up Randy Vasquez, who should be good to go for Sunday, I believe. But tomorrow's pitcher for the Padres, completely unknown. Right now, the Padres have the division lead. They're still plus 135 to win the division. The Dodgers are sitting at minus 180. So that is very much in the air in the coming days for this big series. Milwaukee and Cincinnati also starts tomorrow. Obviously, Milwaukee on a 12-game winning streak. George, I know you like to bet streaks. Have you been rolling with the Brewers this entire time?
Yes. All right. Then thank you, Milwaukee. But I'm a little mad at Milwaukee, too. How about next time you tell us that Brandon Woodruff is all going to be on a pitch count? Anthony pitched, 6 solid starts, whatever it was. But because he was the first time on a regular rotation, not an extra day's rest here, they wanted to give him only 65 pitches here. You can announce that and really help us out here. So I lost out on a prop or 2 of his there. But Milwaukee at the win streak. And I'll be back at it tomorrow. Once again, they do seem to be a true undecided. As I'm looking at ESPN, they have undecided as well. Nick Martinez on the mound for Cincinnati. I can tell you right now, I lean towards the over. I don't think it's going to be a top pitcher going for Milwaukee, so I think we'll get some runs scored here, especially in Cincinnati. But as you said, I'll be blind until Milwaukee loses. I'm going to keep betting them.
There we go. George Kurtz from right here on SportsGrid. We got baseball throughout the rest of the night. Huge series coming up with playoff implication, division implications. Thank you to George for being here. We, of course, see him probably sometime next week. We can recap what happened in the Dodgers and Padres series. Stay tuned right here. Game Time Decisions.
Vegas knows how to celebrate. If you're headed to Vegas for your birthday, plan ahead to get all the birthday freebies the city has to offer. Just by showing your ID, you could get free cash play, scratch cards, drinks, and food at various venues on the Strip. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
He said that was his decision, not a smart baseball play. Like, shut up, Dave. Like, you know what I mean? Like, really. If Ohtani wants to steal third base on his own, let him steal third base on his own, bro. Like, he's Shohei Ohtani. He made the call. He was wrong. He was out. Okay. I wouldn't have called him out for it.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Multiple times on 18 today. It was just so wild. I mean, the distances, JJ hit it to the exact same spot. He had 30 feet, 36 feet, and 30 feet, and made the second playoff hole, the 30-footer there. And then they go to recut the hole.
Which I like. I like that, by the way.
Oh, I thought it was great, but I'm like, dude, he might hole out from the fairway. Like, they cut the hole where he's hit every single approach shot.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
What would you tell the people right now, though? Like, okay, I like the Rams heading into the season, but I'm not sure about Matthew Stafford because people want to get their bets in. People want their team totals. People want to bet week number 1 here. So what's your prognosis on the Rams? We'll talk long-term in a second. Week number 1. Are we just going to say, like, yeah, he's ready. Bullets are flying. He looks great out there because he is a tough dude. But again, a back injury for a quarterback trying to get all that torque on passes, usually not good.
The Early Line, only on
What's going on? Welcome back to Game Time Decisions right here on SportsGrid. My name is Tom Vecchio, stepping in for Kevin Walsh, who's out on assignment. And we're going to dive into some larger football discussions, at least from a slight fantasy perspective, as we are in the heart of August. It is fantasy football draft season. So we're going with a new segment called Tom's 12. We're going through some running backs that I like. And of course, over the coming days, Friday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, next week, we will go through different positions. But let's jump in. And again, this is a ranking that is skewed towards fantasy of how I like them this year. Let's start off with number 12. We will go from 12 to 1 over the next two segments. And let's go with the player who just signed a new contract extension yesterday. James Cook of the Buffalo Bills, coming off a fantastic season. I expect him to replicate that in large part. Now, what he brings in both the rushing and the passing game, or I should say the rushing and the receiving game, is very solid overall. He plays in a solid offense. There are things that are holding him back. At times, we don't see a very high overall rush attempt count from him. And there's also the aspect that we will always see Josh Allen vulture away some goal line touchdowns from him, which, we can say for a handful of running backs around the league. But with Cook, being one of those guys, we have to take him to the bottom portion of this list. Next up, let's turn to Kyren Williams, number 11 of the Los Angeles Rams. This is certainly a player I like very much, and frankly, he could be moving up and up this list as preseason goes on due to the Matt Stafford news, or the lack of health from Matt Stafford with his back, which at this point has to be very concerning. But Kyren Williams has always been a high volume running back, consistently pushing towards 20 carries on a game-by-game basis. He doesn't play the largest role in the passing game, but we know that Sean McVay likes to lean on the guys that he likes, and Kyren Williams is certainly one of them, again, pushing to the 20-25 rush attempt number on an every game basis. And of course, the touchdown should be there with him. And frankly, Matt Stafford isn't going to be vulturing any rushing touchdowns away from Kyren Williams once they're inside the 10 or the 5. Now, we did see Blake Corum have a solid preseason game the other day. Expect him to play a little bit of a role, but it really won't be eating into Kyren Williams' workload too much. It really should be a 70-20 type of split in that backfield. Number 10, let's move on to Chase Brown of the Cincinnati Bengals, obviously a running back that gained a lot of steam last year after the departure of Joe Mixon. I think the Bengals are going to put up a ton of points as they did last year. We don't know how good their defense is going to be, but if they can score 30 points a game, from a fantasy perspective, it doesn't matter if they give up 35. If they're scoring 30, they're moving the ball down the field, and Chase Brown should be a vital part of that, at least a dominant option, at least when it comes to the rushing share out of the backfield for the Bengals. We know with T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, the volume of passes won't always be there, but if the offensive line continues to break down for the Bengals, having an easy check down option for Joe Burrow is always a good thing. Next up, number 9, Bucky Irving of the Tampa Bay Bucs. Fantastic rookie year from him last year, a player that I'm very high on this year, and an offense that I'm very high on, just given the options that they have. I'm not going to say that they're a lock to win the division. I think it should come down between them and the Falcons, but the Buccaneers have a ton of options on offense. Baker should be pushing well over 4,000 yards and close to 40 passing touchdowns. Again, this is not to say that he's not going to make a few mistakes along the way, as we often see, but Bucky Irving, with what we saw from him last year, the explosiveness, the role in the passing game and the rushing game, yes, he's going to have to deal with somewhat of a split workload with Rachaad White, but at the end of the day, I will take Bucky Irving time and time again. Number 8, let's move on to Christian McCaffrey, CMC, and frankly, I was a little bit hesitant to put him at 8, 9. Where did I want to have him end up? But CMC is great, and there are a lot of positive reports out of 49ers training camp that he's looking fast, he's looking sharp. I have him a little bit lower than what other people may deem as consensus, where some people may have him at 4, 5, 6 range, maybe even just 4 to 5. But I believe that CMC at a certain point will see his workload scale back, and I fully believe that CMC will be very effective when he's on the field, but I'm not sure if the volume will be there. And this comes down to just injury prevention. They're going to be a little bit gun shy when it comes to later in the season, where he can go out there and break off a couple long runs, but he's not going to be pushing towards 20 to 25 total touches. If you scale that down to 15 or 18, he can be very effective on those, because we know that the offense is well-rounded, and Isaac Guerrero behind him does play a solid role. So I'm concerned about his workload, the volume of workload, because a part of me thinks that the 49ers are coming up against it as a team and saying, how many more bites at the apple do we have with this offense and CMC when he's approaching the backside of his career with all the injuries? So I'm putting him at 8. Number 7, let's turn to Derrick Henry with the Baltimore Ravens. Obviously, last year was just an unbelievable season from him and their offense overall, and there's no reason to assume that one of the highest rush rate offenses won't continue doing their thing and really dominating the line of scrimmage. And if you watched any Ravens game last year, it was time. We were just waiting for the time when Derrick Henry was going to break off that 50, 60, 70-yard run, that explosiveness, which honestly makes one of the best bets that you can have him on a day-by-day or game-by-game basis, I should say, is Derrick Henry over longest rush, because he's going to break off a 40, 50, 60-yard run. And the volume that he sees, the touchdowns that he sees are simply too good to pass up. And yes, this is a running back that could have some of his goal line touches vultured away from Lamar Jackson, but still the volume that he sees is fantastic. And then number 6, let's turn to Josh Jacobs of the Green Bay Packers. Last year was an absolutely fantastic year from him. We did get a note earlier today that Packers quarterback Jordan Love did have surgery on his hand. It is his non-throwing hand. And while the receiver room for the Packers is very busy and somewhat unknown, Josh Jacobs brings a level of consistency to the offense that we know Matt LaFleur likes to lean on. And I'm not saying Jordan Love is going to struggle because, again, the injury that he had is on his non-throwing hand. The stability that Jacobs can bring to your offense when you have a lot of wide receivers, but none of them appear to be dominant combined with the rookie Golden, we're just not sure what we're going to get. And ultimately that leads to Josh Jacobs having a very game-by-game consistent role in the Packers offense. And frankly, as the season wears on in a very tough NFC North, I expect his workload to increase. And if some of those receivers don't develop in the passing game, the injuries continue to happen to someone like Christian Watson. Of course, we never want to see that, but they never have a solid level of consistency where all their receivers are there at the same time. Josh Jacobs will lean on him every single game, 20, 22, 24 rushing attempts. He actually had a very solid year last year in the passing game, and that will only expand his fantasy potential. So running through Tom's 12 from 12 to 6 in the next segment, we will go 5 to 1. Going through this again, James Cook at 12, Kyron Williams, Chase Brown, Bucky Irving, CMC, Derrick Henry, and Josh Jacobs. And you could assume some of the names that haven't been mentioned yet, those names are all up at the top and set for massive, massive fantasy years. So again, we're running through Tom's 12, the top 12 players at different positions as we are in the heart of fantasy football draft season. We will go 5 through 1 in the next segment. We will then jump to some golf with Brady Cannon. We will touch on some soccer as the EPL starts tomorrow. La Liga starts on Saturday. We will get back to the MLB board. There's plenty to discuss right here on Game Time Decisions. So again, top 12 running backs: James Cook, Kyron Williams, Chase Brown, Bucky Irving, CMC, Derrick Henry, Josh Jacobs. That was 12 to 6. We'll be going 5 through 1 in the next segment. So stay tuned right here on SportsGrid. And there are runs being scored across the MLB board. We will touch on that when we get back right here, Game Time Decision.
Enter into the magical world of McLuck.com, where even the smallest of spins can win real cash prizes. Adventure into over 1,000 of the best Vegas-style slot games. So what are you waiting for? Unlock your free welcome offer today. Join the fun where winners play and players win.
We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune in to Game Time Decisions weekdays on SportsGrid.
This is the moment every fan waits for. The countdown's over. The road to kickoff has begun.
Play is here to stay. I'm not going to name names, Kevin.
From win totals to player props, from division races to MVP debates, we've got eyes on every camp and data feeding 24/7, breaking down every angle across the league. Every pick, every edge, every line that matters. SportsGrid. Your road to kickoff starts now.
Did Did you know sportsbooks tend to draw up tighter bet lines for events that get even more bettors, like championship games or major matchups? My tip? Try betting on less popular sports. You might have a better shot at beating those odds. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
Welcome back to Game Time Decisions right here on SportsGrid. My name is Tom Vecchio. We are rolling through all the day's sports right here. We'll get back to the MLB board in just a second. But in the previous segment, we were running through some top running backs for at least fantasy football this year. Segment Tom's 12, the top 12 running backs. And we went through 12 through 6. Let's turn to 5 through 1. And let's turn to South Beach with the Dolphins, with Devon Achane of the Miami Dolphins. And a fantastic season he had last year, all things considered. Even with Tua missing time, he still played a solid role overall. His receiving numbers are simply amazing. And what they do with him in the passing game is a bit of an extension of the running game, getting the ball to him quickly, easy checkdowns, and letting that explosive speed take care of the rest. So seeing him play a consistent role in the rushing and passing game is something that we can almost etch into stone. And the Dolphins are a team that are largely viewed as having high variance this year, where they could be very, very good in terms of offensive production numbers, or they could be very, very bad depending on what happens with the health of Tua. As Kevin Walsh mentioned yesterday on Game Time Decisions, he believes that Tyreek Hill could be traded in the middle of the season, and that honestly would only open up way more for Devon Achane when it's all said and done. Next up, number 4, let's turn to the rookie in Las Vegas, Ashton Jeanty, one of the top overall picks in this past draft. He is set for a very large workload for the Raiders. And frankly, looking at the Raiders passing offense, there's a lot to be desired. Obviously, Geno Smith is under center this year. Jacoby Myers is there. Brock Bowers this year, fantastic season from him. Outside of that, there's not a whole lot to like when it comes to the Raiders passing offense. And this really does leave Jeanty in a spot for a massive, massive workload, combined with the fact that Pete Carroll is there as the head coach. We know the type of offense that he likes to run, and it should be Jeanty pushing towards 20 plus carries, if not 20 plus total touches on a game-by-game basis. I know the first game in the preseason against the Seahawks didn't go well with 3 carries for -1 yards. I don't think we need to be too worried about that. He is a fantastic talent, and we'll see a very large workload overall. Number 3, let's turn to Super Bowl champion Saquon Barkley. Number 3, a lot of people like to have him at number 2. I am putting him down at 3, and I simply do not believe that Saquon Barkley will be pushing for 2,000 yards for the second consecutive season. This is not to say that Saquon's going to have a bad year in any capacity. Frankly, I think he could have a bit of an improvement when it comes to his receiving game. But to see Saquon push towards 2,000 yards, I, again, just simply do not expect to happen. He will, of course, be one of the most consistent options from a betting perspective or a fantasy football perspective. But again, 2,000 yards, 300-ish in the air, that's just not going to happen again this year. Give me 1,700 on the ground, and maybe he pushes closer to 400 receiving yards, and he'll still be one of the best running backs. Now, again, some of his touchdowns will be vultured away by Jalen Hurts because the tush push is not going anywhere, as we found out this past offseason. But the volume of yards and the efficiency of the offense will certainly push him towards the top. Number 2, Jahmyr Gibbs of the Detroit Lions coming in at number 2 for me. Dynamic player, explosive, the volume, you name it. Gibbs has it. And I know a lot of people are concerned about the split backfield between him and David Montgomery. But frankly, I think we're going to see a bit of a separation this year where Gibbs will be that true number 1 back, and we will see Montgomery I'm not saying he's going to be bad. I'm just saying that the Lions are going to want to get the ball to Jahmyr Gibbs more often than not. And to see Gibbs have a commanding role in the offense, to see him push towards 1,500 yards on the ground and another 600 in the air should not be a surprise to anyone. And of course, the Lions offense will be moving left, right, and center, scoring a ton of points. And who does that leave? No running back, or I should say the only running back that hasn't been mentioned is Bijan Robinson of the Atlanta Falcons. Number one running back for me this year, at least when it comes to a fantasy perspective. A lot of people are expecting the Falcons to take a big step this year, moving with Michael Penix at quarterback, taking a shot towards the division. But the offense has a lot of good weapons around Penix, and this should only benefit Robinson, who had a fantastic year last year. I would expect the total touchdowns to be roughly the same. If you told me his total touchdowns took a step back and he's only at 12 or 13 this year, but the volume of rushing yards increased, that I would not be shocked. So to see him at 1,700 rushing yards, roughly the same in the air, 400 to 500 receiving yards, but to see the touchdowns at 15 or 14, maybe even down to 13, that I'm not going to be shocked by. So Tom's 12, the top 12 fantasy football running backs this year, an absolutely loaded list. And, we can make a case for some of the players to be moved slightly up or slightly down. Again, I'm a little bit lower on CMC just because I think his volume will be slightly lower. Could we move Kyren Williams up just a bit more after, or I should say not after, but due to this Matt Stafford back injury? Will the Rams continue to lean on Kyren Williams early in the season if Stafford isn't healthy? Could we make the case that Kyren Williams could jump Bucky Irving? Do we expect Bucky Irving to have as dynamic of a role as he did last year? Will the Bucs offense try to spread things around just a bit more with the addition of Emeka Egbuka in their receiving room? When Chris Godwin comes back, things can change in their offense. So things and the players will move up and down as the preseason develops and obviously as we get underway. But really, we're looking at a very solid list. And the holes that I would poke in my own list would be CMC, Josh Jacobs. Those could very easily flip if CMC continues to be absolutely explosive, and Josh Jacobs, they don't lean on him as much because the wide receivers are developing for the Packers. That would eat into Josh Jacobs' workload, and he would take a step back. Would Chase Brown see even a larger role? Would Kyren Williams see even a larger role, and they move ahead of Bucky Irving or Josh Jacobs? All that's on the table, but to say at the end of the season, these are the top 12 in some relative order close to this, that I'm pretty confident in. So a explosive list of players. I think you should obviously be looking to get at least one of them when it comes to your fantasy leagues, if at all possible, grab two of them. But we are set for a great year. Start off with Robinson, go to Gibbs, take Saquon next. Those are certainly the top three. After that, it's kind of salted taste of which running back you certainly prefer. We are coming up against a break right now. Here, we will touch on some soccer as the EPL kicks off tomorrow. La Liga starts on Saturday. Stay tuned right here on SportsGrid. More Game Time Decisions. We will be back to baseball and golf after this, but soccer coming up next.
Vegas knows how to celebrate. If you're headed to Vegas for your birthday, plan ahead to get all the birthday freebies the city has to offer. Just by showing your ID, you could get free cash play, scratch cards, drinks, and food at various venues on the Strip. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
He said that was his decision, not a smart baseball play. Like, shut up, Dave. Like, you know what I mean? Like, really. If Ohtani wants to steal third base on his own, let him steal third base on his own, bro. Like, he's Shohei Ohtani. He made the call. He was wrong. He was out. Okay. I wouldn't have called him out for it.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Multiple times on 18 today. It was just so wild. I mean, the distances, JJ hit it to the exact same spot. He had 30 feet, 36 feet and 30 feet, and made the second playoff hole the 30-footer there. And then they go to recut the hole,
which I like that, by the way.
Oh, I thought it was great, but I'm like, dude, he might hole out from the fairway. Like, they cut the hole where he's hit every single approach shot.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
What would you tell the people right now, though? Like, okay, I like the Rams ending into the season, but I'm not sure about Matthew Stafford because people want to get their bets in. People want their team totals. People want to bet week number 1 here. So what's your prognosis on the Rams? We'll talk long-term in a second. Week number 1. Are we just going to say, like, yeah, he's ready. Bullets are flying. He looks great out there because he is a tough dude. But again, a back injury for a quarterback trying to get all that torque on passes, usually not good.
The Early Line, only on
What's going on? Welcome back to Game Time Decisions. My name is Tom Vecchio. We are diving into some soccer as the EPL and La Liga get underway tomorrow. Let's welcome in Marcelino Ortiz to break all this down. And let's get right to it with the EPL. Obviously, Liverpool getting underway tomorrow. It'll certainly be an emotional game for them. They are the favorites to win the EPL. Back-to-back years, they're sitting up at plus 165. We know that Mo Salah is signed on for another couple of years. Are they going to repeat, or will Arsenal finally break through and finish at the top of the EPL?
How are you guys? This is Marcelino Ortiz, straight from the Latin Nation Football Club. We see you every Friday here on SportsGrid, and you are right. Liverpool is poised to be the favorite to win the tournament again. They were last season very, very dominating the coach, first time with the team, and they won the EPL. The one of 5 coaches that has been able to do that. I believe that now with the arrival of Wirtz, this player that is the hottest players on EPL, I think that they have big, big odds to becoming the champions again, repeating. Not only that, I think that they will have a hard time fending off Chelsea. Chelsea, for me, is that team that, although in the odds is not on the second place, I believe it will be the runner-up. It will be the one behind because the amount of money that they just put in the team, the momentum from winning the Club World Cup, for me, it's just going to be hard to beat. And so I see that those two teams are going to be fighting neck to neck all season long.
So outside of the EPL, we have Spanish La Liga also getting started tomorrow. And Barca won last year, obviously powered by Lewandowski and Lamine Yamal. Will they repeat this year, or will Mbappe and Madrid, who are the favorites at minus 125, will they have something to say about it this year?
I think my money is with Barcelona. I think Barcelona is the team that has the most seniority, that the players have understood the system better now with Hansi Flick, that has been doing a stellar job with Barcelona. Now, Xabi Alonso and Real Madrid are nothing to shy away and betting behind them, because the qualities of the players in Real Madrid and the experience winning tournaments, you cannot discount that. Yes, they will have to start from scratch. This is a new coach. There's a new players that might get minutes that they didn't have before that. I'm talking about Rodrigo, mainly Vinicius, that was used to be the top player. Now he might be out of favor. So there's a lot of adjusting that will happen in Real Madrid. That might take a few games off the board for them and give Barcelona the opening for them to actually make a second tournament.
So with the Club World Cup that just happened, do you think the overall volume of games that these players play, do you think that any of them are going to start off slow? Will that impact them in any way?
I mean, we see that the end and the beginning of the season is blending into each other. As you said, the amount of games that these players have to participate throughout the year is reaching 70-plus games. So definitely we'll see that there's going to be more load management the first third of the season. The coaches are also going to take the advantage of the opportunity to see the new players, to allow them to adapt to new system, to new competitions. The Premier League for the newcomers is always rough. This is a league where the defenders are ruthless, and for the forward that came into, they will have to pay their dues before they can actually start enjoying the tournament. So the number of games is a debate that is going to be present throughout the season because we add them more. And this being a World Cup year, we have to factor in international games, which also will bring a level of of competition that is not on, it's not like the friendlies or like the League Cup. We're talking about qualifier games for the World Cup that is they play with the knife between their teeth. So the risk for injuries, the risk for muscular overload is very, very present this season. But these guys are professionals and they're hungry to show both for teams and country. So I expect to have a bright season. These teams are also very deep nowadays.
So let's turn to the MLS. San Jose versus San Diego on Sunday. It's plus 150 on both sides. What's your take on this game?
I think that this is the most exciting game to bet on this weekend. Yes, the straight result might not be an interesting bet, but for me, let's win on the margins. I think that a combination between choosing either team and both teams to score, it's a great value bet. We're talking about two teams that have explosive forward players. On one side, we have Dryers. Dryers has been the standout DP player in the MLS for San Diego. It's breaking all records along with the franchise. The first time in the league, and they are already setting the pace for the Western Conference. But San Jose, it's a great team. Bruce Arena is heading the rebuild, and they have Joseph Martinez and Chicho Arango, which they can score at any minute. So please tap into this game. It's going to be great, and I'll see you Fridays on Latin Nation Football Club.
Stay tuned. Game Time Decision will be back right here on SportsGrid.
Vegas knows how to celebrate. If you're headed to Vegas for your birthday, plan ahead to get all the birthday freebies the city has to offer. Just by showing your ID, you could get free cash play, scratch cards, drinks, and food at various venues on the Strip. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
He said that was his decision, not a smart baseball play. Like, shut up, Dave. Like, you know what I mean? Like, really. If Ohtani wants to steal third base on his own, let him steal third base on his own, bro. Like, he's Shohei Ohtani. He made the call. He was wrong. He was out. Okay. I wouldn't have called him out for it.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Multiple times on 18 today. It was just so wild. I mean, the distances, JJ hit it to the exact same spot. He had 30 feet, 36 feet, and 30 feet, and made the second playoff hole, the 30-footer there. And then they go to recut the hole.
Which I like. I like that, by the way.
Oh, I thought it was great, but I'm like, dude, he might hole out from the fairway. Like, they cut the hole where he's hit every single approach shot.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
What would you tell the people right now, though? Like, okay, I like the Rams ending into the season, but I'm not sure about Matthew Stafford because people want to get their bets in. People want their team totals. People want to bet week number 1 here. So what's your prognosis on the Rams? We'll talk long-term in a second. Week number 1. Are we just going to say, like, yeah, he's ready. Bullets are flying. He looks great out there because he is a tough dude. But again, a back injury for a quarterback trying to get all that torque on passes, usually not good.
The Early Line, only on
What's going on? Well, my name is Tom Vecchio here on SportsGrid. From soccer, let's turn to a bit of golf, and we welcome on none other than Brady Cannon. We have a lot to talk about because things have changed dramatically over the past hour or two. Brady with Robbie McIntyre shooting to the top of the leaderboard with 6 straight birdies, and now he's now at 8 under after finishing, and Scottie Scheffler is at 4 under. He's in second at 4 under. What's going on today?
Yeah, it's really wild, Tom. I mean, it started out being just brutally difficult. There was some weather in the area. And then, of course, we had to stop for a delay. There was some lightning that showed up, and you gotta put a stop to the golf tournament when that shows up. And so some of these guys that went out early, it's very interesting. We played this same course for the BMW Championship, round 2 of the FedEx Cup playoffs in 2021, and guys tore the place apart. Patrick Cantlay and Bryson DeChambeau finished at 27 under par in regulation and then went to a playoff. Cantlay eventually won. So, the memo went out, hey, make this golf course more difficult. They did that. They made it longer. They made the greens more firm. We had a lot of rain in the area back in 2021. That made the golf course really soft. So everything is going according to plan, and the morning wave of this golf course is playing. And we saw Xander Schauffele get out to like a 3 over par start. I'm going, boy, this thing's tough. And then all of a sudden they had to stop because of the weather, and it softened up the golf course. And now look what these guys can do with a soft course. I mean, McIntyre just went absolutely bonkers on the back 9. He made 7 birdies and shot 29. He actually had a bogey in there. His last 6 holes, like you say, birdied every single one of them. And that's the formula to become your first round leader. Number 1 in this field for strokes gained approach, and number 1 for strokes gained putting. I mean, if you're firing on the irons, if you're hitting everything tight and you're making every putt, that's how you get to 8 under par. That's how you shoot 62. So, but I tell you, this thing's a long way from over. This is day 1. Now, the weather was supposed to be pretty benign throughout. So I don't expect, we're supposed to get some thunder showers here and there. Maybe that'll come into play again, but no wind in the forecast at all. So I do believe we're going to continue to see some scores. It should dry out over time if we don't get more rain. And there's no cut here. So all 49 players that are in this field, we got 3 days of golf left for this leaderboard to really shake up quite a bit.
So as we move throughout the weekend, are you looking, because we should note that obviously of the 49, the 30 move on for next weekend. Are you looking at specific matchups, saying that this player has to have a good day, as we get to Saturday, Sunday, they have to have a good day to be able to move on? Will you look to play head-to-heads or, any 2 balls knowing that these players' season is on the line?
It's a great question, Tom. And I think a lot of people will go down that road, but it's very difficult to handicap motivation. Yeah, we know motivation's there, but it's like, it's probably more relatable for people when we're talking about football. And we always get to that end of the year, the last couple games of the regular season. It's like, oh, this is a must win, if they're going to get into the playoffs. And you know how it is. A team can't necessarily just flip a switch and all of a sudden start to play well. So, yeah, I think you have to be careful with that. I think sometimes you can think a guy is going along. You kind of have to go through the same process. You look at the stats. What are they doing well? What are they doing poorly? Does it make sense? Oh, and by the way, he's also right on the bubble there to make it into next week, But I don't think you want to throw all your eggs too much into that motivational basket, if you will, because a guy can't necessarily play better just because he has to.
So with this bunched up group that we have, at least after day 1, with a few players finishing up now, Hovland, Griffin, Ricky Fowler, Michael Kim, Jason Day, is there any player that stood out to you today, as we've often talked about? He was hitting the ball well, but he wasn't putting well, and he should be due for some positive regression. Is there a player that you see from that group that could have a McIntyre performance tomorrow and separate himself from that grouping?
Well, it's really going to be interesting how the scoring goes from here, because today it was basically the tale of 2 halves. It was extremely difficult in the morning, and then now the course has been gettable in the afternoon. So I really don't know what to expect out of tomorrow. I would imagine it's probably going to be somewhere in between. I think the course will be more dried out. We don't have any wind. So it probably won't be as volatile as it was in the morning, but maybe not as easy as it was in the afternoon either. Tommy Fleetwood, and I don't know who's going to necessarily go low, but I'd look out for Tommy Fleetwood. He was a guy I kind of wanted to jump on after coming up short again last week, and everybody's just kind of kicking this guy to the curb. That was a time I wanted to zag when everybody wanted to zig, and I was like, I wonder if he's a good play this week. Sure enough, he's off to a good start. But, you talk about what he's doing well, what he's doing poorly. He's number 4 in this field currently for strokes gained approach. So the irons are spot on. But off the tee, he's been a disaster. He's 38th in this field for strokes gained off the tee and 40th for driving accuracy. And it's some pretty thick rough around here too. Tommy's usually very accurate off the tee. And remember, 40th in this field, there's only 49 guys. So I'm a little leery about what's going on with Fleetwood right now. I mean, if a guy who typically hits it very, very straight is not hitting it straight, then yeah, I'm probably going to back away from him. But I also, at the same time, don't necessarily like to get involved after just one round is under our belt. I'd like to see 36 holes played before we can maybe give ourselves enough of a sample size to say, okay, I think this guy's going to be on a good run this weekend and go from there. But just initial observations, I don't know if this is going to be sustainable for Fleetwood.
So if he's struggling now, as we turn to the Ryder Cup in a few weeks, if he's still inaccurate off the tee in the following weeks, will that be something that you look to in a head-to-head matchup in the Ryder Cup once we get to that point? Like, hey, he's struggling right now, and the rough at Bethpage is not something that you want to mess with.
Great call. I would have to say, I mean, yes, if the accuracy off the tee or inaccuracy in this case continues for Fleetwood or whatever it is with his game, if he somehow or some way in the next couple of weeks or whatever starts to trend south, then yeah, maybe you look to go against him. But he's typically extremely accurate off the tee. So I don't expect this is going to last too long. But for right now, this week, it's a little bit of a red flag out of the gate. Now, when we get to late September, I would imagine he'll be back in form. And that Ryder Cup, these Europeans, man, it does something to them. They're changed men when the Ryder Cup rolls around for the European side.
So is anyone right now jumping out to you on the live leaderboard? I know you said you don't like to get involved too much, but is there anyone that jumps out? Rory at 20-1, Oberg at 27-1, Hovland at 22. They're all, jumping up towards the top. But can anyone, pique your interest just a little bit?
Hovland was a guy that I considered, definitely prior to this tournament beginning. I think this golf course sets up very well for his game. Oberg was a guy that I'm on pre-tournament at 22-1. So the fact that he still has a few holes left to play, maybe he can get it to 4 under or something like that. At 27, I think that's really good. You can basically throw Bobby Mack out. I mean, I would consider the lead right now to be about 4 or 5 under par, not 8. So, Oberg at 27, that looks like a green light to me for sure.
Right. And McIntyre at plus 400, like the ship has sailed on that. You don't want to be jumping in at this point just because you're getting the leader at 8 under when he's plus 400. If you don't have a pre-tournament.
He's not likely to repeat that tomorrow either. I mean, he went bonkers. It made 6 birdies in a row, shot 29 on the back. It's not likely that that'll be repeatable. So I would expect over the course of the next 2-3 days, this leaderboard is absolutely going to bunch up. And no, I wouldn't run to the window with Bobby Mack right now.
Brady Cannon will be right back here on GameTime Decisions.
We all know nothing beats the energy of playing live roulette in a casino. But playing roulette online sure does have its perks. At the casino, you'll average 40 to 50 spins per hour. But online, you're looking at 100 to 150. The more spins, the more chance of wins. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
He said that was his decision, not a smart baseball play. Like, shut up, Dave. Like, you know what I mean? Like, really. If Ohtani wants to steal third base on his own, let him steal third base on his own, bro. Like, he's Shohei Ohtani. He made the call. He was wrong. He was out. Okay. I wouldn't have called him out for it.
In-game live only on SportsGrid. This is the moment every fan waits for. The countdown's over. The road to kickoff has begun.
Play is here to stay. I'm not going to name names, Kevin.
From win totals to player props, from division races to MVP debates, we've got eyes on every camp and data feeding 24/7, breaking down every angle across the league. Every pick, every edge, every line that matters. SportsGrid. Your road to kickoff starts now.
We are back right here on Game Time Decisions on SportsGrid. My name is Tom Vecchio. Quick check-in on the baseball scoreboard. Guardians, Marlins, all those runs are scored in the first inning. It is 3-3. They're now in the top of the fourth. Phillies, Nats, top of the fifth. That is 1-1. And the Mets, Braves are in top of the third, 0-0. So the Nerfy came through in Phillies, Nats, Braves, Mets. It is the top of the first in Tigers, Twins. That is just getting underway. 2 outs in the top of the first. We still have Brady Cannon from SportsGrid on Game Time Decisions. We just went through some golf, the BMW Championship, and let's turn to some football now, Brady. I know you have a couple season-long win total bets that you want to get to, and one of them involves the Buffalo Bills. They just re-signed James Cook yesterday. I know that is a good thing for their team overall, but what do you like or don't like with them this season?
Well, I like the Bills, and I'm a big Josh Allen fan, and I've really been rooting for them to get over the hump for the last few years. But if you look at everything they've done, I mean, how many division titles have they won in a row now? I want to say they're going for 5 in a row this year. Maybe it's 6, but they don't really have anything to hang their hat on. I mean, have they even been to an AFC championship game? Maybe one. I can't recall off the top of my head, but they're always losing to the Chiefs in the end, or they just, again, they can't get to the ultimate goal of reaching the Super Bowl. And I actually bet under their season win total. Now, I'm not sure. I know there's plenty of 11.5s out there. I went and paid a little bit of juice and went under 12.5. And I believe that I'm safe there. And I wouldn't have a problem betting under 11.5 either. The one fly in the ointment is they've got a pretty easy schedule. But here's my angle on why I'm not going to necessarily fade the Bills. I hope they go to the Super Bowl. I hope they have a great year because I think they're fun to watch. I think they're good for football. But I think they can possibly do all that and not win 12 or 13 games because last year, everything went so perfectly. They were one of the healthiest teams in the NFL. They had all the benefits as far as turnover differential, penalty margin, sack margin. We talk about James Cook signing a new deal. That looks great. But you know what? Oh, Josh, we didn't mention Josh Allen wins MVP. I mean, it was a dream season. And still, they didn't get to the promised land. And so for me, it's like, boy, when everything just fits into place like that and you still come up short, I feel, Tom, there's got to be a little regression. Now, again, they could still win the division. They could still win the Super Bowl, but I don't think they'll get to 12 or 13 wins.
Okay. Now, out west, I know there was a team that we were covering last week on In Game Live, and it's a team that you are very high on, the culture, what they've done, the winning, the defense, and that's the Arizona Cardinals, a season-long play that you like with them.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm going to go the opposite way. And I think that's kind of maybe just a general handicapping tool when you're playing season win totals. Go under on all the guys that are supposed to do great and, your Super Bowl favorites, and go over on all the, little sisters of the poor that are supposed to win 4 games, the Titans and the Saints and the Raiders and, this and that and the other. I think generally you might come out ahead if that was all there was to your handicap and your formula. Now the Cardinals are a little bit in between. The number was 8.5. I bet it to the over. I don't think it's a big ask to see them go 9-7. They also have a pretty easy schedule, certainly in the easier half of the league. I believe, according to win total projections, it's about the 10th easiest schedule in the NFL. And I think the division they play in is interesting too. Matthew Stafford now having, injury concerns. We don't know if he's going to be 100%. We don't know if he's even going to be ready for the beginning of the season. The 49ers, I think it's probably a good time to back the Niners when everybody's kind of down on them. But here they are going through injury troubles again. I mean, Kyle Shanahan has really been bitten by the injury bug. It seems like about every other year, and they went through it last year, and they've had some injuries in camp again this year. We know the talent pool's not what it once was. I think they're going to be great. I think they're going to be good. I don't know if they're going to be great. Seattle, it just feels like that entire division is kind of up for grabs, Tom. And why not Arizona, who I think is a team that's been continuing to improve? I would expect Marvin Harrison Jr. to be a bigger threat, as far as, a receiver than he was in his rookie campaign. We know Trey McBride is outstanding. The running game is solid. The offensive line is improved. And they went all in on defense to try and improve that side of the ball. And I think Jonathan Gannon has been tremendous as a coach. Not necessarily in the results, but he has that team always playing hard. And I think he's building positively. So to get this team to 9-7, I think they could possibly win the division. I'm not going to make that bet. I think it's a better bet to go over on the season wins. But I think the Cardinals are going to be a decent team this year.
I believe this. I said much of the same on a show earlier this week where, I don't think the Seattle Seahawks are going to be great. And I said that the Cardinals are going to be a team that causes a lot more trouble to opposing teams and within their division than people realize. A well-rounded offense, the backfield, Connor, Trey Benson, like you said, the offensive line, the defense. And again, it's just a coaching. It's a top-down thing of the effort being there to try and win. I have an alt team total under, which we'll get to in the next segment, little tease for that. But it's a team that we discussed with some QB controversies. Maybe it's a team that starts with the letter C. Who knows what it's going to be, but under 6.5 alt that we'll get to, which is sitting up at plus 155. We will get to that in the next segment. But Brady, any more preseason action that you have coming up this week or anything that you're keeping your eye on? Because we did see 14-2 to the over last week.
Yeah, you might just blindly go Oppo, and not necessarily play the favorites, but maybe play everything to the under this week because last time I checked, these odds makers are pretty smart and these markets adjust pretty efficiently. So, no, I'm not necessarily going to ride the trend. I'd be more willing to go, to go against the trend of what we've seen so far in the preseason. But just those two futures, over on the Cardinals, under on the Bills. Don't know if I'll make any more before the season starts.
That's Brady Cannon. I'm Tom Vecchio. We have one more segment coming up right here on Game Time Decisions. Then we hand it off to Scott and Gabe for In-Game Live. Stay tuned right here on SportsGrid.
We all know nothing beats the energy of playing live roulette in a casino. But playing roulette online sure does have its perks. At the casino, you'll average 40 to 50 spins per hour. But online, you're looking at 100 to 150. The more spins, the more chance of wins. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
He said that was his decision, not a smart baseball play. Like, shut up, Dave. Like, you know what I mean? Like, really. If Ohtani wants to steal third base on his own, let him steal third base on his own, bro. Like, he's Shohei Ohtani. He made the call. He was wrong. He was out. Okay. I wouldn't have called him out for it.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid. This is the moment every fan waits for. The countdown's over. The road to kickoff has begun.
Play is here to stay. I'm not going to name names, Kevin.
From win totals to player props, from division races to MVP debates, we've got eyes on every camp and data feeding 24/7, breaking down every angle across the league. Every pick, every edge, every line that matters. SportsGrid. Your road to kickoff starts now.
We are back on Game Time Decisions. My name is Tom Vecchio. Again, I will be here filling in for Kevin Walsh today, tomorrow, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of next week. And let's get to the final segment. First, let's give a quick touch on the MLB scores. Marlins are up 4-3 over the Guardians. Phillies are up 2-1 over the Nats. The Mets put a run on the board, and they're up 1-0 over the Braves. And Tigers Twins 0-0 top second. So the Nerfy comes through in that one. Let's turn to some of the crew plays, all well-rounded here for the Crystal Ball Thursday plays. Some futures that we like, and as I said in the previous segment, a team total alt under that I like, the Indianapolis Colts under 6.5 wins, sitting at plus 155. The Colts are not a good team, and Anthony Richardson is not good. Daniel Jones is not good. They are going to struggle this year. So their win total is sitting at 7.5. I'm taking it to under 6.5 because I don't think they're going to be good, and I'll grab a little bit of plus money along the way. Sam going to La Liga for Valencia to finish top 4 at plus 2,000. Certainly an interesting one from him, but again, La Liga gets started tomorrow. Kevin from the Ocean liking Kyle Hamilton to win AP Defensive Player of the Year at 50-1, and honestly, that's a bet that I certainly do like. Very dynamic on the defensive side of the ball, can certainly pile up the stats when it comes to sacks, interceptions, pick six, tackles for loss, you name it, he could certainly do that. Let's turn to Chris Kofsky, one of the other producers from Mexico, going to Joe Burrow to win NFL MVP at plus 600. Wouldn't expect anything less from Kofsky to go with a chalk option, although Joe Burrow could certainly do it. I certainly don't like the odds at plus 600. I would wait for a little bit of a longer number in season. And then Pat Foster turning to Amen Thompson for most improved player in the NBA, up at 15-1. Obviously, the NBA gets started once we turn to October, but get in your futures now before markets move too much. And the most improved player is something that can change very quickly, along with sixth man of the year, at least when it comes to the NBA. Let's give a quick recap when it comes to our crew best bets for today. Obviously, most of these are in action, at least, 4 of the 5 of these are in action. I like Riley Green for 2+ total bases going up against Bailey Ober. That was sitting at minus 110. Sam's for Scribble to go 3 up, 3 down. We probably have a result for that if we can get that through. I would assume that's a yes because the Twins have no hits on the board going to the bottom of the second. And what else should we expect for, and that is a winner for Scribble to go 3 up, 3 down, sitting at minus 125. Oh, it's not. Oh, so it's not a winner. He had a walk mixed in there. So it is not 3 up, 3 down for Scribble there. Kevin Walsh, Bailey Ober to record 2+ walks at plus 160. Bailey Ober is just not a good pitcher. That should be coming through more often than not. Chris Kofsky going with Coors Field game, which is up at 12.5, which is a very high number, under 12.5 at minus 105. And then Pat Foster likes the Phillies and the Nats to go over 8.5. And that already is sitting at 2-1, and the live line for that is sitting at 6.5. It is the bottom of the fifth, so that is a little bit behind pace. But again, let's go through this MLB slate that we have. And again, we'll touch on some of the games that we do have coming up tomorrow. Marlins Guardians, that is 4 innings have just ended. Marlins up 4-3. So if you are on the first 5 for either the Marlins or the Guardians, that is coming to a conclusion as we reach the top of the fifth. You'd like to see some insurance runs from the Marlins because that's always a good thing. The Phillies up 2-1 in the bottom of the fifth. Again, the Phillies arrived late in D.C. because they had plane troubles. They did not leave last night from Cincinnati. They stayed until this morning, did not arrive until early afternoon. And the Mets are up 1-0 after 3. They're in the top of the fourth now. Mets looking to get any win they can get at this point after giving up 9 runs in 1 inning last night and losing to the Braves. The last few weeks have not been good for the Mets. They need to get any wins that they can get because they are playing the Mariners in a series starting tomorrow. And as we talked about at the start of the show with George Kurtz, some of those lines are already out. And the fact that we're getting plus money on the Mariners at plus 106 when the Mets are expected to start a rookie pitcher and Luis Castillo is expected to go for the Mariners. Getting plus money on the Mariners has been super hot after a couple losses. I like them to bounce back at plus 106 tomorrow. And then the other big series this weekend, which I'm not seeing listed as of now, would be the Padres visiting the Dodgers. Michael King going to the IL for the Padres, not expected, or he's not going to start tomorrow. He's not expected. But Kershaw should be on the mound for the Dodgers. It is a massive series to help determine the outcome of the NL West. I will be back tomorrow right here on Game Time Decisions, same time. Right now, we're handing it off to Scott and Gabe for In-Game Live. We'll see you guys tomorrow night.